everyone. We're starting our panel. Thank you for joining us today at HAPLA. I'm Caroline Hetzel, the digital content editor at Kitchen and Bath Design News. And today we will be talking about the use of lighting and storage and how they can maximize the value of space. So with integrated lighting and smart storage solutions, style and aesthetic don't have to be sacrificed. And if you're here, you probably already know that lighting and storage are foundational in the design process, not secondary. I love having our discussion at the HAPLA booth because we can really look around and experience the solutions that today's designers will be talking about. So now to introduce Jerel and Sarah. Owner of LakeHaus Designs, Jerel Lake is an award-winning Atlanta-based kitchen and bath designer whose focus is on tailored approach to functional luxury, interior architecture, and custom cabinetry solutions. Sarah Robertson is the founder and principal of Studio Dearborn, a boutique kitchen design firm based in Westchester County, New York. A 3-time KBIS Best Overall Kitchen Design Award winner, Sarah is known for kitchens that balance beauty with deep functionality, especially when it comes to cabinetry, storage, and millwork. So let's jump into the conversation. All right, so maximizing the value of space. What does that mean to you in your work, especially in terms of lighting?
Okay, so do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, hi, everybody. It's so exciting to see the turnout here, and there are so many talented designers here today. I sort of feel like I could hand off the mic to anybody, and you guys could just roll with it. So clearly I have to come up with some actually intelligent things, which we're mostly relying on Jerel for. I just want to make that clear up front. But yeah. In my limited experience with kitchen design, I wanted to share a story about the rental that we're staying in Florida. We have been renting a beautiful place, Palm City, Florida, and we walked in and flipped the lights on, and my first reaction was, oh my God, I've got to spend 3 months in this place. And the lighting is awful. And everything is beautifully lit, right? Very, very bright. Absolutely no layers, right? So no way to dim, no way to turn off a few lights. And it is amazing how you suddenly appreciate how you've designed your own house, right? So I think it's really an undervalued aspect of what we do. And I feel like, I'm not going to lie, like I'm still learning how to layer lighting, how to really think about my lighting plans. And I'm now sort of being drawn in even beyond the architect's lighting plans to do those plans myself and kind of rethink them and go through them with my clients. And I bet you are too, Jerel.
Yeah, it's the same process. Walking into even family members' homes, mother, father, whoever it is, you're picking apart how lighting affects everybody and how they feel. So it's, addressing it through layering. I think that's an undervalued part of, any design, is how you can tailor your lighting plans and structure it in a way that just feels much better when you walk into the space. Even if it's just cutting off all the recessed lights and doing lamps, it's still going to feel like a much more cohesive space when you walk into it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think, Jerel, some of the things we're talking about are in the next question. So how can lighting design change how a space feels and functions?
Yeah, so if you look around the booth, and we've got a lot of tape lighting, a lot of strip lighting. If we're talking about task in a kitchen, where you place the lights on a cabinetry, how it's lighting the surfaces. If you're placing it towards the back of a cabinet, how it washes the wall. So I think just being really conscious about placement of light is something that you could pay attention to a little bit more and get more of an ambiance, more of a task, and address certain concerns for clients if you're really intentional about even just the slightest dimension change and where it's placed. And
yeah, and I don't know about all of you, but I focus on kitchens, obviously. So what I find is one of the biggest challenges is figuring out where to put that lighting, because we have so much stuff in the kitchen, right? And we're like, for me, I like to max out the windows, but I also want to put sconces above the windows, which means you've got to think about allowing for the sconces if that's what you want to have there, right? So you have to make sure that there's at least enough room between the crown and the casing to get that in, and talk to the electrician about that early, right? And then do you want other sconces attached on the sides of cabinets, which is another whole process to figure out how to get all that wiring inside the cabinetry, right? So there's so much planning ahead, especially in the kitchen space, because there isn't a lot of room to allow for it.
Right. And so could you also talk a bit about the process of lighting design and how early do you integrate it? I know that's quite important. Garrett.
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
Yeah. Right off the bat. I mean, when we're laying out the cabinetry, which is kind of our first step, is to do, a layout where we're doing 3D renderings and all of that, and we're laying in the lighting inside the cabinetry, outside the cabinetry, right on the walls, all at that point, and doing a preliminary lighting plan. But of course, most of what I do is renovation, so there's always those considerations of the framework of the house and you having to change things, right, when you realize that there's a joist in the way and so on. So you have to roll back, right, and iterate and kind of do some of it all over again.
Yeah, the sooner the better, I think. With lighting, it's before drywall goes up, it's before final things are put in place, to have a thorough walkthrough with an electrician, the builder, to understand where outlets need to go, what system of lighting you're using. The more you can get and front load all of that is just going to avoid changes and costly mistakes for the client in the future.
Yeah, I actually had an experience on one of my last projects where we were putting sconces on the sides of cabinets. And I thought I'd done like the most amazing job of planning ahead and creating this beautiful pocket so that none of the electrical showed. And it turned out somewhere in the communication, like my drawing of where that light fixture was going to go wasn't quite communicated right. And they didn't run a long enough electrical tail for that light. And there we were discussing with the electrician that now he had to have a box up in the ceiling, and oh my God, such a mess. But you don't realize, and we fixed it. It worked out great. And I ended up bonding with the electrician, which was really funny because he hated me at that moment, but we somehow trauma bonded, I guess.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I'm also interested in the client experience. What has that been like for you? Is it something they often think about or not?
I mean, the last thing clients think about is lighting. I think it's, they look at the overall picture of what they're trying to achieve. So, it's an educational process of showing what's possible, how we're going to light the space, and being intentional about what we want to light and highlight within the space. It's something that, is constantly evolving also. So it's just having those conversations, educating clients about what's possible, and then showing them examples and how to execute. And we can do that through 3D renderings. We can show lighting specifically in a nice way and go to experience centers to see exactly how that's going to feel. So it's really just an educational process that happens quickly.
Yeah, I'd be curious to kind of throw it out there in the audience. How many of you find that your clients are really focused on lighting up front? Anybody? Oh. Thanks, someone. That's my son. Yeah, so I think most of you are shaking your head, right? Yeah, I think it's really difficult, I think, to get your clients to focus on lighting. There's so many other things that I think are more fun, that are more flashy, that they can actually wrap their head around. And I don't think they realize the importance of that day-to-day interaction with their lighting, right? Until they move into the space, and then they're like, gosh, we're really glad you thought about where that light switch was going to go.
All right, so on to storage.
He was asking a question about the lighting warmth, which is such a good question. And I think there is such an education on our part, right, to educate our clients in terms of how warm that lighting should be. And I don't know about you, Jerel, but I find that there is kind of some disagreement in terms of what level of warmth people want in a kitchen space. I tend to like warmer, so I actually try to push it to 2,700, which I feel like is about as warm as you can kind of get away with in a kitchen. What about you?
Yeah, 2,700, 3,000, I think, is a sweet spot to where everyone's happy at the end of it. But it also comes down to other fixtures that are in the space, trying to make those blend as best as possible. But I love the warm light as well. It just doesn't read as bright if your client's maybe older or needs that extra task lighting. So it's really about the personal preference, I think.
Yeah, and we've had instances where we've put all the lighting in, we put all the bulbs in, we put a couple shades on, some of our fixtures, and we realize there's such a difference in the color when you put on a warm tone shade that we've had to go and replace all the light bulbs to the next shade warmer, which is we've done it, right? You just swap out the light bulbs. Problem solved.
And there's tunable lights too that actually get warmer while they dim. So that might be an option for your client that needs something bright at a certain level, but can actually at night, tone it down to 2,700.
Yeah, it's definitely all about warm lighting for me. So now about storage. How does smart storage support the way people actually live?
I'm going to make you go first.
I work with clients that have smaller spaces. I think those are the most challenging spaces to work in. You have to be extremely creative in maximizing their needs. So they still have the needs and requirements of a space with a large kitchen. So it's appliances that are paneled, it's storage solutions, it's maximizing every corner and cranny within the space. So we really have to get creative about even carving out areas within the room, taking closets, expanding spaces, to be smart about how we approach the storage and maximize based on their needs and how their lifestyles. Hayfla has some great products that allow to, you have storage that can pull down out of wall cabinets that, can help with ergonomics. So it's really just treating it like another design opportunity and solution that you're trying to find.
Yeah. That's a really good point that Hayfla has, the Le Mans units, the Magic Corner units, which you're probably using on every single kitchen. I'm using on every single kitchen. I actually love corner storage just because those units, transform that space into something that can kind of hold things that no other space in the kitchen can hold because they can handle a lot of weight. We end up putting a Le Creuset in there. So those are things, in terms of as you're planning the kitchen, kind of knowing that those things are out there. The Revo door unit, which is another Casa Boomer one, is also, it sort of transforms the Lazy Susan in a way that it makes it actually really usable, and not just this sort of hellish corner storage that no one wants to put anything in. So.
And you design similar to what I do, where there's not a lot of wall cabinets in the space. So we really have to utilize tall storage and corners more than you would with someone who puts up a lot of wall cabinets. So it's just shifting that storage from up above to below or spreading out in a different way.
Yeah, I think there was a client that I met really early in my career where they came to me at a cocktail party and said, "Sarah, we'll let you design our kitchen if you can figure out what we should do with the corner storage." And we didn't have room for blind corners. We only had room for Lazy Susans. And I said, we should use the Revo door because you'll actually be able to put things in there. And they gave me the job. And those clients gave me 6 more clients. And it was like the start of my career. I was like, oh, so glad I knew about that.
Fantastic. So before we get to the Q&A, where do you think designers most often leave value on the table?
Dude, I could speak to that because we're really good at that at Studio Dearborn. I think there are so many areas that we're leaving value on the table every day. I think that, interestingly, from a lighting perspective, when I first started designing, I think I did a lot of lighting work for my clients without charging for it. So the way we typically build is we do a flat fee and then we do a markup on cabinetry, right? And so that ended up just sort of getting rolled into all of those hours. I do think that if you are doing the lighting plan, you should be charging a separate line item for that. And that is what we do now, but lesson learned. I mean, that can be a huge time sink, a lot of hours on the job site, right? But there are so many different, I mean, we could talk all day about leaving money on the table.
What's the markup on the lighting itself? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I know it could be 3,000 or 4,000, but that is another way to increase revenue. From a storage perspective, I think it's challenging your clients a little bit more. If they say they need storage, that doesn't necessarily mean typical wall storage or typical ways of doing it. So find some of these products that can actually help you integrate that storage in a different way and just focus more on aesthetic versus the actual function of storage that they're looking for. Yeah.
Thank you. So one thing I think is really cool at HEFLA is if you don't feel like you're an expert on lighting plans, you can actually ask for their help and they'll do the HEFLA lighting planner. So if you're interested in that, just walk around and talk to one of their representatives. Yeah, so now it's time for the Q&A. So just raise your hand if you have any questions for Sarah and Jerel. All right, so the question is, are you integrating more lighting in kitchen and bathrooms, like in the tile and niches?
Yeah, so being kitchen focused, it's really more like secondhand. I hear that my designer friends are doing that and putting them in niches. I will speak for myself that I really like more classic lighting. So I'm not a huge fan of sort of putting an LED strip light just anywhere. So I don't know that I would light a niche. Thoughts on that? But I will say that lighting in the shower, as my eyes get worse and I cannot read that shampoo bottle label or even tell what is shampoo and what's conditioner at this point, I think having a little more light would be really helpful.
Yeah, it's the niche, plus it's under cabinet. If you have a floating vanity to where that turns on as you walk into the space, there's light troughs that we do in showers just to wash the material and back walls. So there's a ton of ways to do it. But yeah, it goes well beyond the kitchen for lighting. Yeah.
There's the answer.
So the question is, how do you prioritize architectural lighting versus other lighting aspects?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a matter of prioritizing. I think what's important is separating them, right? And I think, all of you designers know that, to put these things on separate switches so that you can flip on, for me, I love the sconce lighting at night, have that on a dimmer and be able to tone that down and just have that lighting on and nothing else in the kitchen right after you've cooked dinner. So I think it's a function of separating them into layers, right? Thinking through how you want to use them at different times of the day as you're doing that plan so that they can be separated out and obviously all turned on if that's what you want as well.
Yeah, it's about control. I think and also I'd learned that having just a grid of recessed lights isn't the proper way to light. It's more about what you're lighting. So if you have a cabinetry design that you want to highlight and accent certain pieces, it doesn't matter that all the lights are in exactly perfect order. It's lighting a specific piece in an order and then having that control to dim the recessed lights, turn on sconces and play with that gives you that feeling and experience where you're looking for, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, if we could make like a pitch for surface mount lighting and away from recessed can lighting. I think you're doing that as well, right? And just try to have that conversation early with electricians and make sure they're bought into that. Because there can be, like, we've run into issues, obviously, where rooms are completely open. And of course, they're putting recessed lighting into the adjacent space. And then I'm trying to, campaign for surface mount and getting rid of all the recessed in the kitchen. And I'm losing that battle because everything's all connected, right? And where do you sort of stop and start? I guess that's a good question. Anybody who's got an answer to that, let me know.
So if someone is looking to get started in lighting, where do you recommend they look or start to get that experience?
So we need to take that. I really think that starting with lighting experts, like they offer at HEFLA is a fantastic way to do it. And I also think, I mean, that's not just me plugging them. I think there's so much to be learned. I think sometimes you don't even know what you don't know when it comes to lighting. So I think if you can have someone like that kind of, helping you out in the beginning, you will ramp up really fast.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and I still miss components or don't order the right things. So leaning on HEFLA and their sales reps or their design service really helps you kind of understand. And you can tailor it to exactly what you're looking for so it's consistent. You just order the same thing and same components every time. It's more predictable that way, but using their design service is a good starting point for everybody.
Yeah. I've also spent a lot of time using the HEFLA catalog. I don't know about all of you, but mine is like all highlighted for, particular lighting that I've used a lot. It's very well written. I've been able to learn a lot just from reading that documentation.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today at the HEFLA booth, and we invite you to explore the rest of the booth.